America is rich. So why does life feel this hard? America is one of the richest countries on earth. Everybody knows that part, but the part people feel in their actual lives is a lot harder to explain. More than 770,000 people were homeless across America on a single night, the highest number ever officially recorded. The latest USDA food security report found that 13.7% of American households struggled with food insecurity, and for households with children, the number climbed to 18.4%. Only 63% of adults said they could cover a $400 emergency expense with cash or something close to cash. For black adults, that number dropped to just 40% compared with 73% for white adults. So when people say America is rich, a lot of families hear that and think, rich where? Because if a country is this wealthy, regular people should not feel this financially nervous all the time. But a lot of them do, and honestly, a lot of black families know that feeling very well. Many people did exactly what America told them to do. They worked hard, stayed responsible, took care of their families, kept pushing, kept grinding, and somehow life still kept getting more expensive anyway. We know that feeling because we've lived pieces of it ourselves. We've seen what happens when people work full time, do everything right, and still feel one emergency away from falling behind. They are not asking for luxury, vacations, or designer clothes. They are just trying to breathe a little without checking the bank account every other hour. After a while, people stop asking, how do I become successful? They start asking, why does basic life feel this difficult in the first place? You see the pressure everywhere once you start noticing how people move through a normal day. Parents stand in grocery store aisles doing mental math before they walk to the register. Someone picks up a pack of chicken, checks the price, pauses for a second, and puts it back like nothing happened. Families stretch meals before payday because groceries no longer feel like a simple errand. Grandparents help raise grandchildren because childcare can cost almost as much as rent in some cities. People keep fixing the same old car because replacing it would turn one problem into a whole financial event. The strange part is that America slowly normalized this level of stress. For millions of Americans, a $400 emergency is still a serious financial problem. A flat tire can become panic when the job is 20 miles away and the car is not optional. A broken transmission can turn into missed rent when public transportation barely exists. One medical bill can wipe out savings that took years to build. In countries Americans often call poor or less developed, daily life is not automatically easy. People earn less, deal with heat, traffic, weak infrastructure, and plenty of problems America barely notices. But then you see families eating hot food outside for a few dollars. Grandparents sitting in front of the house, kids playing in an alley, neighbors recognizing each other, and small restaurants open late with people actually talking. Then you come back to America and watch people eat dinner in cars between shifts. That contrast does something to your brain. Black families often carry an extra layer of pressure because survival is rarely just individual. When grandma's rent goes up, somebody helps. When an auntie gets sick, money starts moving around before anybody even asks. So when inflation rises, rent jumps and grocery prices climb, black families often have less room to absorb the damage. Inflation does not just hit wallets. It changes how people sleep, how couples talk, how parents answer children, and how quiet the house gets when another bill arrives. America talks a lot about hustle culture, but most families we know already tried working harder. They tried overtime, second jobs, side hustles, weekend shifts, driving Uber, doing DoorDash after work, and fixing cars on the side. People joke about burnout constantly now. Everybody says they are hanging in there, making it work, or just tired, and nobody reacts anymore because exhaustion became part of normal conversation. And that is what makes the overseas comparison so uncomfortable. A country can have better roads, bigger salaries, nicer airports, and more advanced systems. But if normal people feel nervous every time they open a bill, something about daily life is still not working. Healthcare alone scares a lot of families. People are not only afraid of getting sick, they are afraid of the bill that shows up afterward. Can they afford the visit, the prescription, the follow-up? And whatever part insurance suddenly decides is out of network because apparently healthcare also needed a plot twist. Some people delay appointments until payday. Some skip medication because the refill costs too much. Some hope the pain goes away because the alternative might become another monthly payment. In parts of Southeast Asia or Latin America, hospitals are not perfect, wages are lower, and local people still deal with real costs. But many Americans are shocked when a basic clinic visit does not feel like signing a financial confession. They are surprised when medicine costs less than a phone bill. Rent keeps climbing, insurance keeps climbing, property taxes keep climbing, and salaries are politely jogging behind, like they forgot this was a race. The latest BLS spending report showed the average American household spending around $78,500 a year, or more than $6,500 every month. Housing and transportation alone take over half of household spending for many families. In some American cities, $1,000 barely touches rent for a small apartment. In parts of Vietnam, Thailand, Mexico, the Philippines, or Indonesia, that same amount can cover a much larger share of a family's monthly life, especially outside the most expensive city centers. Why does a rich country make basic shelter feel this financially heavy? The newest USDA report found that food insecurity still affects nearly 1 in 7 American households. In real life, that means cheap frozen meals, instant noodles, fast food value menus, and parents buying whatever stretches. Then you visit Vietnam, Mexico, or Thailand and see hot food cooked on sidewalks, in small shops, at night markets, and in family-run stalls. People are eating together, kids are nearby, older people are sitting around, and neighbors know which stall is good and which one got too expensive. America can feel lonely even when it is packed with people. People used to stay close. Grandparents were nearby. Cousins came over without needing a calendar invite. Churches were not just places for Sunday morning. Neighbors actually knew who lived next door, which now feels almost suspiciously old-fashioned. That closeness mattered because life has never exactly been cheap. The difference was that people had more human backup when things got messy. Now families scatter across different cities chasing cheaper rent, better jobs, safer schools, or just one neighborhood that has not been renamed something like the District at Midtown Heights. And after a while, people stop recognizing the places where they grew up. The corner store disappears, a luxury building goes up, the rent jumps, somebody's grandmother moves farther out, a cousin takes a job 2 states away. Nobody makes a dramatic speech about it, but the community slowly gets stretched until it barely feels like a community anymore. Meanwhile, people are still trying to keep up. Some elderly people work retail jobs well into their 70s. Parents compare insurance plans with the seriousness of military strategy. Coworkers talk about side hustles during lunch like everybody is running a tiny emergency business after 5 p.m. Then you compare that with places Americans usually call less developed, and the contrast gets awkward fast. In Thailand, Indonesia, or the Philippines, you walk through a neighborhood and see older people sitting outside, kids playing nearby, somebody cooking 20 feet from the sidewalk, and a small food stall somehow turning into a restaurant, a gossip center, and a community bulletin board at the same time. Then you come back to America, where people can share a wall for 3 years and only recognize each other by Amazon packages. That is the part that feels strange. A country can have bigger salaries, cleaner roads, grocery delivery apps, and garages that open with a button, but still leave people socially disconnected most of the time. Then some Americans leave the country for the first time. That is when the shock hits. They are shocked because a normal Tuesday can feel easier than an American weekend. In Vietnam, Thailand, Mexico, the Philippines, or Indonesia, life can feel rich without needing a luxury budget. You can walk outside at night and still see people eating, talking, laughing, buying food, taking kids home, or sitting around like being outside is still a normal part of being alive. A hot meal might cost a few dollars instead of turning into a $28 situation with tax tip service fees, delivery fees, and a screen asking whether you are morally strong enough to press 25%. For Americans used to watch every paycheck disappear into rent, insurance, groceries, gas, and one medical bill with suspicious timing, that difference feels personal. In the US, $1,000 can vanish before rent even finishes stretching its legs. In parts of Southeast Asia or Latin America, especially outside the most expensive city centers, that same amount can carry a much bigger part of the month. It can help cover a place to stay, daily meals, rides around town, small family expenses, and still leave enough room for someone to sit down without checking their bank app like it owes them an apology. The difference is not just price. It is the feeling that life is still happening around people instead of charging them for access. Dinner can last longer because it is not squeezed between traffic, overtime, homework, and a microwave meal eaten while standing near the sink. A simple coffee can turn into a real conversation instead of a caffeine stop before another meeting that absolutely, legally, spiritually should have been an email. For many Americans, especially Black Americans carrying years of money stress, that slower pace feels almost suspicious at first. Their shoulders drop before they even notice it. Conversations stop sounding like everyone is trying to beat a countdown clock. A regular evening outside starts feeling like proof that life does not have to be rushed every second. After that, American stress looks different. Pressure in America became so familiar that many people stopped questioning it. Then they spend time somewhere dinner is affordable, the street stays alive, family stays close, and a normal day does not arrive with a late fee. That is when a very uncomfortable question starts to form. Why did life ever have to feel this hard? At some point, a lot of Americans stopped asking what kind of life actually feels good. They started asking what kind of life they could get through without falling apart. That is how expensive living changes a person. Dinner turns into whatever can stretch until Friday. Rest gets postponed because one quiet afternoon can feel irresponsible. Even hobbies start looking suspicious unless they can become content, a side hustle, or a tiny brand with a logo nobody asked for. Apparently in America, even joy needs a business plan now. Then someone spends time in a place where life moves differently, and the whole American routine starts looking strange. In Thailand, someone can sit outside with a cheap meal, a cold drink, and a real conversation without spending half a paycheck to pretend they are relaxing. In Vietnam, a family can eat on plastic stools while the street moves around them like one big shared living room. In Mexico, a neighborhood plaza can still feel like a place where people actually gather, not a polished lifestyle district where one coffee costs what lunch used to cost. In the Philippines or Indonesia, family life often spills into the street, the shop, the porch, and the market in a way that makes American loneliness feel louder. What shocks people is how normal it all feels. Nobody needs a special plan to sit together. Nobody needs a reservation to eat well. Nobody has to turn every hour of free time into a productivity experiment. Meanwhile, a normal week in the US can feel like a stack of bills wearing a calendar costume. A doctor visit turns into a money decision before anybody even sees a doctor. Rent sits there like a threat with a due date. Grocery shopping feels less like shopping and more like a small courtroom drama where every item has to defend itself. Free time gets treated like wasted potential unless someone can turn it into a post, a product, or a little extra income before the algorithm loses interest. At some point, people are not really living their lives. They are managing themselves like tiny companies with anxiety and terrible customer service. For Black families, that stress often lands on top of older stress. For generations, families have covered each other's gaps, sent money when someone needed help, shared what they had, and tried to build something solid while starting with less. So when people finally feel calm somewhere else, even briefly, the relief can hit harder than expected. A quiet dinner outside feels different when nobody is rushing people through it. A cheaper clinic visit feels shocking when the bill does not follow them home like a villain in a sequel. A slow afternoon can remind the body that life was never supposed to feel tense all the time. And once the body remembers relief, America's normal starts looking expensive in more ways than one. Even with all that pressure, Black communities still create warmth in ways America never gives enough credit for. You can see it around folding tables when families gather and somebody's uncle treats the grill like a federal responsibility. You can hear it when a grandmother starts a story from 1978 and somehow turns it into a warning about not trusting everybody. You can feel it during summer evenings when kids run through apartment courtyards while someone watches from a porch, a kitchen window, or the driver's seat of a parked car. People still bring extra food when they probably should have saved it. They still check on elders before anyone asks. They still make jokes at the worst possible moment and somehow keep the whole room from sinking. That kind of warmth is real, which is why the overseas comparison hits so hard. When people visit places where dinner is easier, streets stay lively, and families spend more time outside together, the question changes. It is no longer only, why is America so expensive? It becomes, why did daily life in America become so hard to enjoy? One of the richest countries on earth somehow made peace feel like something you have to qualify for. A person can work full-time and still feel nervous about the next grocery run, the next rent increase, or the next health problem that shows up with perfect villain timing. And no, that does not mean everybody hates America. It does not mean everybody wants to pack a suitcase, move to Thailand, and start a YouTube channel called I Finally Escaped. It means people are noticing the gap between how rich the country looks in the numbers and how tight life feels when they wake up and go through the day. America can look powerful in speeches and headlines, while regular people are too rushed to eat together, too tired to see friends, and too stressed to enjoy the life they are working for. A lot of families are not chasing luxury anymore. They want rent they can handle, food in the fridge, time with family, a doctor visit that does not ruin the month, and enough breathing room to enjoy a normal Tuesday without feeling like the economy is standing behind them with a clipboard. Everybody already knows America is wealthy. The real question is why so many ordinary people have to leave it for a while just to remember what normal life can feel like.